name's Deuer-Reese, Carol Deuer-Reese. There's a lot of master gardeners here, which means your questions, should they be multitudinous, could probably be answered very well. And welcome, welcome to Zen Gardening. Welcome. Zen Gardening is typically Japanese gardening, and the first part about Zen Gardening will be rocks. Usually in numbers of 5 to 3 or 5, usually an uneven number. The rocks are placed in the garden, and a Zen garden is an intentionally meditative garden. So I've been told that when Japanese gardeners put in a garden, they evaluate the site from every possible aspect. So if I'm putting in a garden there, I stand here and I look, and I stand there and I look, and I stand there and I look, and I stand there and I look, and then I go in the middle and I stand there and I look out, because I want to know every possible aspect of how that garden's going to look. And the overall effective is for meditation. It's supposed to be a meditative process. I have never built a Zen garden. I've visited several. There's a very nice one at Cheekwood. There's a very nice one at Huntsville. And there's others assorted in different places. There's an incredible one at Missouri at St. Louis Botanical Garden. And it encourages you to slow down, take in your surroundings, and relax into a calm state. Oh. When designing your Zen garden, also called a Japanese rock garden, consider how all the elements harmonize and how the space can lead to contemplation. You can have small Zen gardens, you can have big Zen gardens, but it's for contemplation. And I think the current term is to promote mindfulness. We talk a lot these days. It's kind of current to talk about mindfulness. Sand. Sand is sand or gravel is one of the main elements in a Japanese Zen garden. It represents water. The designs in the sand represents waves. When Japanese gardeners, they use a little rake like this. My husband made a couple of these, but it's just anything this would be much larger.
I was wondering.
But there's spaces between the tines and it represents waves. Gravel. Rake the gravel to accentuate the features of the garden. You're going to take in your mind, you're going to take rocks and you're going to place them in your sandy area, gravelly area. You're going to have a bunch of gravel and you're going to rake the sand or the gravel so that it represents waves. And the very act of raking the gravel should be meditative and produce calm and mindfulness, unless of course you spend the whole time going, oh, I should be doing that over there, or I should be doing that over there. But that's the intention here.
Rocks in the garden?
Rocks. Just rocks. No, there are other things. Usually they incorporate water features. Typically Japanese water features, but you can have any water feature you want. The sound of the water is important, and as this one is one of those bamboo jobs where the water just comes up and goes out the little spout and hits the basin going, with the sound of water. With the rocks around it and the sand. Bridges. This is a moon bridge or a moon gate, but since it's over water, it's more of a bridge than a gate. I had a cattle feeder ring at one time that worked really well. I used it for my daughter's wedding, and we decorated it with flowers. And then I just found out yesterday that my son gave it away, and I was going to use it because it made a perfect gate. But that's the effect you want. It's something rounded. Moon gate, same theory, circular. In your head, you're transitioning from one part of the garden to another part of the garden, and it gives emphasis to what you're walking into. Don't you find that a lot when you walk into a garden space, especially if you're walking into like they call it an alley, where you have 2 rows of like crepe myrtles or plants that form, they go up and they form, their branches form up here. And so it's like you're going through a portal or a gateway. And it's very calming. I have friends that have planted stuff like that, and I go to their houses and I just walk back and forth. A moon gate is a circular opening in a garden wall that serves as a pedestrian passageway, traditionally found in Chinese gardens. It symbolizes birth and renewal, creating a serene atmosphere and inviting visitors to experience the beauty of nature. Moon gates also enhance the aesthetic appeal of gardens, acting as enchanting entryways that connect different areas. Now, this would work especially well if you have an area where, like in my backyard, I have a grassy area, and there's paths going up into the woods. So if I put a moon gate where the grass met the woods, that would be the most effective, because I'm transitioning from one type of garden to another. Bridges. I was told, I didn't do any research, but I was told that the reason that the Asian bridges are configured this way is so if you're being pursued by evil spirits, they cannot accommodate the turn. So they're running after you, you're running, they're running after you, and they can't go left or right. Only you can go left or right, so they go off into the water. Yeah. That's what I was told. I don't know for sure. I always wanted one of these. Floating decks, another element of a Japanese Zen style garden. A lot of us have floating decks anyways, you know, just decks that you don't see the supports for. There's just another, it's just an additional element to the calming mindfulness. Floating, a floating thing. So you think you're floating. Bald trees, that would be any tree like a bald cypress or a metasequoia, something that's got a needled tree, an evergreen that's needled and bears seeds in a cone, but it loses its leaves, turns colors and loses its leaves in the fall. That would be like your bald cypress, your metasequoia, which is also the common name, dawn redwood. It's a dawn redwood. It's magnificent. They're also kind of big though, so be careful if you plant one, because they don't stay little, they get great big. Shrubby foliage: Aucuba, Euonymus, Camellia, Aleagnus, Fatsia, Mahonia, Photinia, Pyrrhus, and Viburnum. All these plants have relatively large leaves with different colors. Aucuba typically it's a shrubby bush. It doesn't get very woody. It's mostly tropical, so in a hard cold snap in the wintertime, it's not gonna, it will die back to the ground. In the giant frost we had 3 years ago, in the wintertime, most of the Aucubas died back to the ground. Most of them also recovered, but they were slow to recover, so just now they're getting back to where they were. Typically they have a limey green leaf with gold specks on it, or variations of gold specks on them. They're great for doing flower arrangements. They're great in the woods, because when you look in the woods and you see an Aucuba, you see a bright spot of limey green, not just the dark green, the summer green that everything becomes in the summertime. The color that, when you look into the woods now, you just see one color of green, whereas something like an Aucuba will just smack you right in the face, because it's bright and it pulls your eye. Euonymus. Euonymus is another one, smaller leaf. Typically you'll have variations of yellow and green or white and green in your Euonymus. Euonymus, it gets slightly woody, not completely woody, slightly woody, loses its leaves in the fall, but it's particularly susceptible to scale, Euonymus scale. So you'll have to watch for that. If you want to treat for scale, you'll have to watch in the spring. Scale is when a small critter like this exudes calcium, it covers itself. So, but if you can catch that small little wormy creature in the spring and spray it with insecticide, it'll kill it before it gets a chance to cover itself. Otherwise, it will eventually kill the plant. It'll just cover it. When you see those little white specks, crepe myrtles also get those little white specks. It's when that little bitty soft-bodied insect exudes calcium. It's sucking on the branch and getting nutrients out of it, and then it eventually exudes a hard coating. And once you get the hard coating, you can't get rid of that guy for a while unless you peel him off. When there's hundreds of them, that's difficult, But yeah. Camellia. Camellia is another one that didn't do well in that hard freeze that we had. If you can get it to grow, it's magnificent. I know Alicia has some that are doing okay. It's also the tea plant, where the tea plant is in that family, the plant that you get tea from. Have you gotten any tea from yours? Mm-hmm. Okay. I've only got one that's still alive, but that's me. Camellias, you can get camellias that bloom in the spring. You can get camellias that bloom in the fall. But we are right at the edge of where they will survive. So it's a lovely leaf. It's glossy, green. You can use it in flower arrangements. It makes a great specimen. The flower looks just like similar to a rose, not just like, but similar to a rose. It's a great plant if you can get it to grow, but in this area you'll have to put it in a sheltered area. Elaeagnus, I'm not that familiar. Anybody familiar with Elaeagnus besides? Okay, we'll just forget about Elaeagnus. Fatsia has a cut leaf, like a cut leaf philodendron. It grows outside. It does well around here. But the leaf is very interesting in that it has cutouts. And so it's great for flower arranging to use as a greenery at the base. It's interesting when you see it growing over at the edge of the woods too. It does like a little bit of shade. Mahonia, great spike of yellow flowers. A little bit on the thorny side, but as far as interest, it's fantastic. Photinia is a shrub, does well. Can get some size on it, 10 to 12 feet. Usually there's a little titch of red around the leaf, but just a little bitty titch. It's woody, and it does real well here. And it's great for flower arranging. You're probably tired of me saying that, but Pyrrhus japonica, that's the one that has the little upside down vase. The flower looks like an upside down vase. It blooms in the late spring. It's a small woody shrub people put around the foundation plantings of their house, typically. So it's a cute little white flower. It grows on a stalk. The flower's like this big, so there's like 100 of them. And viburnums. You all know viburnums as the snowball bushes. There's also viburnums that are smaller. They have the same shaped leaves. You identify them the same way, but they have a scent to die for. Viburnum davidii or Viburnum burkwoodii, and they're also known by the common name of Korean spice bush. The scent, if you have a viburnum blooming like that in your yard in the spring, it's transformative. You just walk out and you go, what is that? So. Or you can have the ones that have the big snowballs that get 20 foot tall. They don't have any scent at all, but they're still pretty spectacular. Plants that you'd see in a Zen garden. Arissima, that I'm not familiar with. Aster. Astilbellris, again, I'm not familiar. I'm very familiar with aster. Astilbellris, iris, never mind. Liriope, platycodon, that's a balloon flower. Polygonatum, that's Solomon seal. Sedums, all sorts. Tricitrus, that's this right here, that's toad lily, which also grows on the side of banks along creeks, but it's slightly different in that. Same family, but slightly different. Begonia and Blatilla. Blatilla is a native orchid that grows around here. Usually it's a purple. It's a vibrant purple. Blatilla is cool. Grows in the shade. Vibrant purple. No scent, but it's so good looking. It's so good looking in the woods, at the edge of the woods. Asters, they grow in the sun. They grow everywhere. I'm not familiar with that one. Liriope, you all know as the name of monkey grass. You're probably tired of it by now. Platycodon is the balloon flower. Solomon seal, that's the one that has the little tiny flowers on the underside of the arching branch. It's a perennial. There's no woody material to it. None of these have any woody material. And begonia, you can take those in the wintertime if you want. They grow like gangbusters. I'm sure you're all familiar with them. They're all over the nurseries right now. Everybody's trying to get rid of their plants because they're all going to have to water them or they're going to die. Dwarf conifers. We talked about dwarf conifers in this class. Dwarf conifers grow typically between the littlest 1 to 6 inches a year. So they're great for containers. They're great to put in a specimen area. They're great for fairy gardens. Anything you want a small plant that it's not going to run you out of house and home. Multicolored, you can get dwarf conifers that are pines, dwarf conifers that are spruces, dwarf conifers that are firs. Now, dwarf conifers are generated by a mutation caused by a virus in a plant. It produces what's called a sport. Whenever you see a conifer and there's a whole bunch of little branches growing out of the spot, that's a mutation. I love mutations. Typically, it grows true to the shape and color of the original plant, but it grows very, very slowly and stays very, very small. So there's a plant, and there's a dwarf conifer society. It's a national society. I'm not quite sure where they're out of. I do know that there's a nursery up in Shopsmith, close to Watertown, where the guy has a nursery called Dirt Dog Nursery, and he sells. He's the president of the association, and he sells dwarf conifers. Dwarf conifers are suitable for containers. Moss. Moss grows best in shady, moist environments with acidic soil. Now, as a misnomer, I have moss growing all over my backyard on limestone. That's not acidic. So, there's a whole bunch of interpretive range here. It can spread naturally through spores or be cultivated by transplanting existing moss or using a moss slurry mixture. If you want to produce moss in your yards, like between stepping stones, or if there's some area you want, and you have a source of moss, you can cut it up real fine, mix it with buttermilk as a nutrient, and then just spread it the area you want it to grow, and there's a good chance. There was a lady named Nori Burnett in Richmond, Virginia, and she was featured in one of the National Gardening magazines. She got tired of fighting the moss in her yard, and one day she just said, "I'm not going to fight it anymore. I'm going to start cultivating it." So all of her paths and all of her extra stuff that was in the shade, she would take little pieces of moss from existing patches and plant it there, and it just fantastic. If you ever look her up, it's Nori Burnett. It's just moss is pretty cool. It's a lower plant. It propagates by spores, and a lot of times you'll see these little stalks come up. It looks like a flower or something, but it's not. It's just a mechanism to disperse spores. That's how moss does it. It doesn't have sex. It's not you don't have a male plant and a female plant. You just have one plant that's throwing off spores. A labyrinth. Labyrinths are considered also part of meditative gardens and can be incorporated into a Zen type garden environment. They're meant as places for personal contemplation and renewal. This is not a maze. It's not designed to make you aggravated. It's designed for you to walk in a manner and a place where you feel contemplative at the end of it. And it doesn't have to be tall. I've seen labyrinths that were just, this tall. You could see every bit of what you were walking on, but you just followed the little path, and just following that path made you feel better. And some people consider it a healing garden. That's up to you. Creeping ground covers are usually incorporated often. This is your garden, you do it your way. But common ground cover options for Japanese gardens include moss, Mondo grass. Mondo grass is a very short grass that can come in different colors. Comes in green. There's a very attractive one that people really like that comes in black. Only gets 3 or 4 inches tall, and you don't have to cut it. You don't cut Mondo grass. It gets this tall, and then it's done. Sedum, Irish moss, and they provide a lush green appearance while requiring minimal maintenance. These plants can thrive in various light conditions, making them suitable for different garden environments. That's Pachysandra. Japanese maples, because of their shape and the way they grow just like regular maples. Different ones need different amounts of sun, so you need to check on that before you buy one and plant them, because you can pay a lot of money for a Japanese. You can buy a cheap one, that's fine, but you can pay a lot of money for a Japanese maple. Also, I learned this the hard way when pruning Japanese maples, because they're prone to breakage, especially you have deer that like to rub up against them. But when they break and you go in to prune them to get the dead stuff out, don't leave the woody material that's going to be exposed to the sun. Make sure that if you have a choice between cutting this branch off and it's got leaf cover that's covering this branch below it, if you cut that off, a lot of time your direct sun will cause that branch below it to split, because the bark on that lower branch will get sunburned. So keep that in mind when you do Japanese maples. There are some incredible Japanese maples on the market. There are Japanese maples on the market that have red twigs, especially the young twigs, with lime green leaves. And oh boy, when you see that, you just go, ah! So, or you can just get regular ones. I have regular ones in my yard, but somebody planted them before I moved there, so I'm just lucky, you know. And I saw one that looked just like this at a garden in just 2 weeks ago, at a garden in Philadelphia, not Philadelphia, but in the Brandywine Valley. And oh, when the sun shone through that tree, perfection. The statuary is common in Zen gardens. Asian statues conveying peaceful thoughts. You can do the pagodas, you can do the Buddhas, you can do whatever you want. Stone pagodas. And they make all this stuff in resin too, so us old people, those of us who are old, not all of you, those of us who are old can handle moving them around. Cryptomeria is one of the big trees that you'd be looking at. Cryptomeria is, it's got a particular leaf. It's a needled evergreen, and it kind of forms a scale. But over time, you'll recognize it. Be careful where you plant these puppies. They can grow easily 50 foot tall. A lot of these Japanese evergreens or Chinese evergreens that we think are going to get 8 foot tall, maybe not, you know. So really pay attention. If the tree really likes where you plant it, it's going to get big. They like full sun, will tolerate filtered sun, plant in acidic soil to neutral soil that's consistently moist and well draining. Water regularly when young, becomes drought resistant as an older tree. Give fertilizer once a year in the spring for the best results. Plan for it to eventually grow large, requiring at least 30 feet of width. So, arborvitae, average, medium moisture, well-drained soils, full sun to part shade, moist, neutral to alkaline, well-drained loams, intolerant of dry condition, best in full sun, but generally appreciates some light afternoon shade in hot summer climates. Avoid full shade where foliage density will substantially decrease. Growing bamboo. This is that LA I was talking about. There's something similar to this at Cheekwood. When you come into the Zen garden, or their Zen garden on the backside. Oh, you can get a membership through UT Gardens for $35 a year that will give you reciprocity with all these local big gardens. So for $35, you can buy a year-round membership And it'll get you, there's 300 gardens in the United States that you can access with that membership. Teresa went to the gardens in Alaska with hers. Wow. Yeah, all the main all the state gardens like the St. Louis Botanical or Cheekwood or Huntsville or Atlanta. If you choose to buy that will get you access to all those places. And all those costs are going up and up and up to get into all those botanical gardens. But anytime you walk in an LA like this, it gives you a really nice sense of
Closure.
yeah. Incredibly calm and meditative. And before growing in the garden, look for less invasive species. There are less invasive species of bamboo than this. I dug up an area of bamboo in a house I had in Arizona, and I found out I had to get a bobcat to do it. The mat that it was growing out of was 8 to 10 feet deep. And when I finally got it all up, I found out that I had 25 extra feet of yard that I did not know existed. But there are, and there's a nursery south of Nashville that sells the less invasive species that don't grow like that. So, koi fish. Okay, anybody want to chime in for koi fish? Any koi lovers? They have different colors, isn't that a butterfly one, that one? Koi are typically in a pond though in a Japanese garden. Water lotus or water lilies. There's a pond over here on the edge of, it's on Rutherford Boulevard. It's at the edge of Murfreesboro, where they have both water lotus and water lily. Water lotus forms that big pod that sticks up above the water level, and it's got those little balls in it. You know what I'm talking about? They use it in decorations for different things. It's a woody, slightly woody. It's not really woody, but I don't know how to describe it otherwise. And then it's got these little spaces, and then there's a ball in each space. And that's the seeds for the water lotus. The water lily and the water lotus grow at different levels of water. So if you got 1 foot of water, you'll get one plant. If you got 3 feet of water, you get a different plant. That is a water lily. Those are water lily pads. We saw some spectacular water lilies at the Longwood Gardens. Lily pads like this with little edges, and they have those at Huntsville too. Okay, full sun or at least 6 hours of direct light per day for a water lotus or a water lily. Grows in water, soil must be kept wet. If you do those in your ponds, typically there's going to be a pot of dirt underneath the water someplace. There's also a little one on Main Street. That big old Victorian house at one of the houses has a water lotus thing. The pond's only this big, but it's right next to the street, so you can see it when you walk by. Water lotuses are hardy down to zone 4, but a circulating system should be used to prevent the water source from freezing solid. Mature plants growing in containers should be fertilized every 20 days with a complete 20-10-20 water-soluble fertilizer. To prevent excess spread, plants should be placed in containers with no drainage holes in the water source. So again, that's how they're controlling the non-native aspect of it. Pockets of tranquility. The whole Zen garden is supposed to be tranquility, emphasis, tranquility. Don't have to take up entire yards. It can just be a corner. It can be a corner of your entryway. Curving paths are also part of it. I love curving paths. You'll never see me do a straight path unless there's a evil spirit chasing me. That's the only time. I'd also like to bring to your attention that if I'm running, you better run too, because there's something big coming. Curved paths are best suited for informal gardens because of their natural casual appearance, and they create a sense of mystery. I don't know about y'all, but I love turning a corner and seeing something I didn't expect. Not necessarily a person. A natural flowing shape of a curved walkway evokes a feeling of relaxation. This is all about relaxation today, guys. Mindfulness. Mindfulness is the cognitive skill of being fully present and aware of your thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensations in the moment without judgment. It involves observing your experiences with curiosity and acceptance, often developed through meditation practices. The mind is everything, What you think is what you become. That's the end of the PowerPoint.